Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is going on, everyone? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in the studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Oh, let me talk to you.
And boy, do we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more.
We do.
You are tuned into the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we have a lot of ground to cover, so we're going to keep it short and keep it sweet for anything and everything that is the ODPH after the show. Keep those conversations rolling. ODPHpodcast.com. And on social media, use that hashtag ODPH because we have a lot of ground to cover. This has been one of the best weeks of entertainment news in recent memory. And it kicks off with two brand new shows, a trailer, some casting announcements in one shot. So, Pat, I think we rolled the dice, and we're heading to the MCU to kick things off, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to start with the first two episodes of the latest TV show from the Marvel Cinematic Universe on Disney+, and that is Agatha All Along.
Yes, the Catherine Hahn spinoff from WandaVision is actually here. 2 episodes dropped. A lot of things happening with this show, and one that is kind of giving a little ideas of where we're going further in the MCU. Now, if you're new to the show, first and foremost, thank you for checking us out. It does mean the absolute world to us. What we'd like to do is give you a spoiler-free statement about what we're discussing, so we don't ruin anything for you. However, we give you a countdown. At that moment, you need to make a choice. Do you continue on and get spoiled and hear theories and get ideas in your head about what's going on with the show, because that's what we're going to be discussing? Or you have to pause the episode if you haven't seen it yet, catch up, and jump back in the conversation. Pad puts the liner notes in there so you don't get ruined for anything. But we want to have those conversations with you, so you've been fair warned. That being said, Pad, it's time to talk about the spinoff from WandaVision, the spinoff from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. It is time to talk magic in the MCU. Give me your spoiler-free statement about the first 2 episodes of Agatha All Along.
It's good. You know, I'm interested to see where it goes. It didn't necessarily blow me away by any means. I will say I'm glad they did the 2 episodes, because if they did just the one, the Seekest Thou the Road, I would have been very disappointed, because by itself, 1 episode, there's not a whole lot going on, at least for me. But with the 2 episodes, I'm at least like, okay, I can see kind of where the overall picture is going, where we might be going on this. But overall, it was fine.
I thought this was good. I wasn't blown away. I'm much like you.
Yeah.
I know they're setting up a lot of groundwork, because obviously dealing with Agatha Harkness, who has always been a supporting character in the comics universe, spinning her off into her own show was going to be hit or miss.
Yeah.
Catherine Hahn, who has been excellent in the role, it really got a chance to shine here. But trying to add the story and seeing where everything is moving from here is a little bit of a challenge. She does have a great supporting cast with her. Joe Locke, who is playing a character known as Teen. Deborah Jo Rupp is reprising her role from the WandaVision show. Aubrey Plaza is a mysterious new character as well. And it goes from here for the magic verse of the MCU. Anytime you deal with this in the comics, it's tricky, let alone live action. It can be hit or miss. I thought they hit the ground running enough that there's enough for fans to come back for the next couple episodes. However, though, I think they need to move a little faster.
Yeah.
And I think that they're doing a lot of setup work, and it had better have a big payoff.
Yeah.
Because I fear with all the theories that are running around now, there's going to be a letdown if they don't deliver. So I thought for where they needed to start, it was good, but did it blow me away much like you? No, it didn't. But I am still very intrigued where we're going with the show. So that being said, I know I'm going to start talking spoilers any second now. So in 3, 2, 1, Pad, talk to me.
Like I said, the episode was fine. You know, if it was just the first one by itself, I would have been severely disappointed and maybe not as, quick to watch the new episode when it drops. I might have been like, you know what, I can wait a couple days. I can wait a little bit. It's not exactly, the highest of priorities. I got other stuff going on I got to focus on. But at least with these 2 episodes, I can kind of like, okay, there's a little bit here for me to sink my teeth into. I can kind of have an idea where things are going. I might end up being wrong. We'll see. But for the overall first 2 episodes, not exactly a smash hit home run out of the park, but, probably a double into the gap between, left and center field. It was fine.
It did a lot of groundwork that I think is going to pay off. I think they've tipped our hands, and I think a lot of viewers are jumping to extreme conclusions.
MCU fans jumping to conclusions? What?
Well, they're teetering around 2 characters right now. Joe Locke's teen, which was listed under the character's bio, and Aubrey Plaza's character of Rio Vidal, who is speculated to be many different characters. I've heard Mephisto. I've heard Blackheart, the son of Mephisto.
Right.
I've even heard our good buddy Tom Craven has even said the Darkhold is involved.
Oh, shit.
And one of these characters is a living embodiment of said Darkhold.
That would be wild.
That is a great theory, and I hope it's right. I don't think it's teen, though.
Right.
I do think it could be Aubrey Plaza. And I'm going to completely throw that curveball in the mix. I know everybody's really jumping to see Mephisto because of reasons.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're going to see that character here.
I think at this point, anyone saying Mephisto isn't being serious. They're just saying it for the laughs.
Well,
that it's the running joke of the MCU at this point, because for a while it was, oh, that's Mephisto. Oh, any mysterious character that came on screen that they never outright said who it was, oh, it's Mephisto. I feel like now it's just the running joke in the meme.
And it makes sense. I mean, obviously Mephisto being tied to a certain storyline that I do not like bringing up any which way, shape, and or form. It makes sense. But in this situation, I think we're stretching, because if you know the character Wanda Maximoff, a.k.a. Elizabeth Olsen's character, there's not a lot of Mephisto there. There's a master pandemonium that could be Aubrey Plaza. I've heard that theory, and it would make sense there. But we don't really know, and that's where I think everybody's kind of jumping to conclusions, and I think they're setting themselves up for a big downfall, because I think they're looking too far into things.
Yeah, probably.
Because where we kick off with this show, it is a little bit different, because are we on a television show?
It felt almost like an episode of Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
Or like Law and Order. Like I've only seen a couple episodes of Criminal Minds, when my mom was really into it and recovering from her surgery, and I've obviously waiting for Monday Night Raw. I've seen a number of episodes of Law and Order. So it definitely had the vibe of one of those shows, but which one specifically, I could not tell.
Yeah. I mean, it had a little Twin Peaks. It had a little, CSI.
And the title card that popped up wasn't even Agatha All Along. It was Agnes of Westview.
Yeah. So something was going awry there. And we do see Catherine Hahn playing a character known as Agnes O'Connor. And she is a detective in Westview. And there's a murder case involving a Jane Doe. And the Jane Doe turns out to be who, Pad? Wanda Maximoff.
Yep.
The Scarlet Witch.
Yep.
Which throws another curveball in the mix. Along the way, we see there's an FBI agent that comes into town, Rio Vidal, who's played by Aubrey Plaza. And she's now coming to work on the case, and once they start examining what's going on, this is where the layers start getting peeled of what's going on.
And the layers start early, because as soon as Agnes shows up to the crime scene, whoever the officer is, whatever rank he is, I don't know, they never really said, sees her approach, and she brings a peace offering of like donuts or coffee or something, just like, hey, I'm here. Sorry I took so long. The officer looks at her like, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be on desk duty. So something has happened where she's not even really supposed to be there, but she talked her way into it, was the only choice for the situation, but something's already gone on where she's not exactly, squeaky clean right now.
And there's another character that's involved that is kind of helping that theory, because there's a teenager that breaks into her house. And he keeps talking about something called The Road.
Yep.
And that turns out to be Joe Locke's teen. And there is something very wrong with him as well, because anytime he tries explaining himself,
or giving his name,
it gets muted. His lips get swallowed in.
Yep.
There's a lot of mysterious things happening.
A magical spell
involving him, which, knowing Wanda, it makes sense. Because as we find out, Agnes is really Agatha Harkness, which is no surprise, but we find out that she's been trapped under a spell from the Scarlet Witch for 3 years. And the minute that clicks in,
yep,
we get a very funny situation involving Agatha confronting her neighbors, saying hello and realizing she doesn't have her powers. And it starts kind of breaking into what's going on with Vidal, who's another witch, and basically says, yeah, I'm here to, kind of take down you.
But like, hey, you got to be careful because the Salem 7 are after you.
Yes, because the Salem 7 is actually a dive from the comics. So that is something, I believe, tied with the Fantastic Four, more or less.
Yes.
Agatha is tied more to the Fantastic Four in the comics than the Avengers. And obviously there is a connection with Scarlet Witch, but it is stronger with the Fantastic Four, so thus Salem 7 is more connected in this situation, which I like how they're playing in that sandbox because there's a lot of great stories you can tell. So when this is all going on, Agatha is sitting there basically breaking down, I have to go get my powers.
Yep.
And I have to now figure out what is going to involve Teen because he is a character that is playing a factor in this. So that first episode, they do cover some ground, but it's more of a bait and switch.
Yeah.
Because half that episode is devoted to that TV show.
Yep.
So you don't really get the payoff until the last 10 minutes, would you say?
Give or take, yeah, maybe 15.
Yeah, so when you're kind of breaking everything down, it's like, okay, now we're realizing everything that was going on here was a ruse. There's no rhyme or reason to it other than there's a spell involved. Obviously, Wanda's affection for television is now coming back true here.
Yep.
And you do see that she wanted her own crime show and have Agatha live through it.
Yep.
And, kudos to Catherine Hahn because she ran with this material, got very serious when she was Agnes, and then went into the very charismatic Agatha portrayal that she's been known to do. And having seen her play off Aubrey Plaza was very good. Because Plaza's
great.
Yeah, she's fantastic in everything she's in. But she really was matching line for line with Agatha, even when there was a fight scene involved.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have to remember that. So when there's a mysterious character involved, it can be very hit and miss. We do see this with Teen, too, because he did have a connection here, but there was not a lot of him in this episode.
No.
But we do pick up when we go to episode 2, entitled Circle One with Fate, or Unlock Thy Hidden Gate. So this is coming out of episode 1, Seeketh Thou the Road. So very fancy titles for this.
Yeah.
Almost like a chant, if you will.
Maybe.
Thoughts on that, Pad?
It's probably got something to do with the overall story. It'll probably play a factor by the end of the season.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess there's 9 episodes. I'm going to guess probably like episode 8.
I would say so, too. We're going to get somewhere on this road now because that's literally what happens with episode 1. There's not a lot to sink your teeth into.
No, and considering we haven't seen Catherine Hahn as Agatha since, the end of WandaVision season 1, which was in March of 2021, so effectively 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Give or take a couple days. I kind of understand the slow start because, hey, we got to kind of fill in or kind of allude to what's been going on, but might have been a little too much of that. Yeah. At least for me.
Yeah, it was a lot. I don't want to use this comparison, but I think I have to. It was almost like the whole Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., hey, we were in the Avengers?
Yeah.
Like that kind of rehash?
Or even the season 1 Daredevil, The Incident.
Yeah.
The Incident.
Yeah.
You know about The Incident? Except they never said the attack on New York.
Yeah.
They just said The Incident.
Yeah, it was that kind of vibe. Like I say, episode 1 was okay.
Yeah.
Like I say, I don't think it was the greatest thing in the MCU they've done. Episode 2, a lot better.
Yes.
A lot better.
Yes.
Because as we go now, we find out the Teen has been freed. He reveals about the spell is gone there. And now is the talk about the Witch's Road. And this is going to be the challenge for Agatha to get her powers back. Because at the end of the road, allegedly, whoever survives it gets what they desire the most.
Which for Agatha is, hey, I got no powers. I want them back.
Yeah. So when this kind of sinks in, it's a very, hard realization that Agatha is not who she is used to, and she needs to realize that she needs help.
Yep, because you can't get to the road by yourself.
Yeah. And she also knows when she's trying to talk to Teen, much like the first episode, whenever there's personal information given out, she can't translate it.
Correct.
It's being hidden. So at this situation, I am fully convinced, and you can't tell me otherwise, he is Wiccan.
That's my guess. I know somebody speculated with the magic they saw him or that was used on him, and it was like a certain color, and it matched the color we see with Wiccan. There was this whole thing, but I mean, having it be Wiccan makes some amount of sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And it's not too much of a tell because we have to realize something with this.
It's also not that far of a stretch.
Right. But what are they building on the TV shows? Not the movies, really.
Young Avengers.
Yeah.
And if you're blind to this, I don't know what else they can show you at this point to show that.
Exactly. And
they literally said it at the end of what was it, the Marvels?
Yeah.
They literally like spelled it out at the end of the Marvels. Like they almost did verbatim the Nick Fury scene from Iron Man 1.
Yeah. So they've been building, they're going to be building towards it.
We just don't know in what capacity. Movie, television show,
right?
Video game.
It's wide open. Yeah. I mean, we don't know what they're doing other than the team is going to form.
They're common.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously what is going on with Iron Lad and Kang, we don't know. So they could be pulling an audible here.
Yeah, could be.
We do know Vision's connected to the team.
I mean, it's also not out of the realm of possibility for it to be Wiccan, just because you think back to what happened during the Multiverse of Madness and just how ripped apart things got and how crazy things got, that like, okay, we started traversing to multiple dimensions, not just a dimension. You know, they didn't just skip to one, they skipped to multiple. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for like something or someone to have crossed over in one of those cracks.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see. I know that Teen referred to his boyfriend Eddie. There was a little scene involving those two. I'm not going to say that that's Hulkling, if you know the characters from Young Avengers. I'm not saying that's him yet. I don't know. And I want
way too early.
Yeah, it's way too early for that prediction, because I know
for all we know, this just could be a side character.
Right. So we'll have to wait and see how this goes. But where things really pick up here is Agatha and Teen now have to put together their own coven to go open the portal for the road for the witches.
Yeah.
And they do some recruiting. So we do get to see, obviously, Deborah Jo Rupp reprise her role as Mrs. Hart, if you will, but she's known as Sharon Davis on this. So she steps in for a Green Witch, which I'm waiting to see if she has a bigger reveal of somebody.
Probably.
And we do see that Alice Wu Gilbert, who is an ex-police officer, who's played by Ali Ah, is now in this role too, and she comes off very mysterious.
Yeah.
And I like how she's set up too, because it's kind of, she's the wild card on this team. We don't really know, and there's a very big standoff too when they come across each other. So we do have that mixed in, and then the character that I'm most familiar with from the comics, and that is Jennifer Kale, who's played by Shazir Zamata, and who's almost like an influencer.
Kinda.
That's running a store that obviously Teen knows about, but there's also like a little fall from grace going on there too. So I do like how they're setting that up as well.
Yeah.
So that turns out to be a great moment. And then Lila Kajru, who's played by Patty Lupon, that's rounds out their coven. So they all have different things that they want out of this.
Yep.
Because if it gives them what they all want, so that they all survive at the end.
They also seem all extremely reluctant to do it, but begrudgingly like, all right, fine, if we have to.
Well, Agatha's reputation precedes herself. And much like in the comics, too. Like, there is a hint of danger involved with her, and you can
not
even
always
see,
a team player.
Oh, Agatha already tips off, like, I will step over you to get what I want. Like, there's no camaraderie here. You're just, you're something I need to get what I want.
You're pawns in my chess game.
Yeah, which is just, I wonder how the dynamic's going to play out. But then it's, like I say, it's very interesting to see about Sharon Davis involved as the Green Witch.
I'll tell you this, the mistrust and the lack of camaraderie, I guess, is going to definitely come back to bite them here, probably in a couple episodes.
Oh, I imagine. They're going to hit the ground running with this.
Because the vibe I get, and this is not knowing all that much about the Witch's Road, is it's nigh impossible to traverse to the end of this thing and get what you want. Otherwise, there'd be a line longer than your favorite ride at Disney World to get on this thing. So it's nigh impossible to traverse this thing. And that really means you need a very strong sense of fellowship and friendship and, let's help each other and let's accomplish the goal here, all those happy things. And if you get one little dissension, one little moment of mistrust or jealousy, it might all come unraveling.
Oh, yeah.
And this ain't a video game. There aren't any second lives.
Well, it's very interesting about this, too, because they're already running up against the team because the Salem 7 show up.
Mm-hmm.
And Teen is on lookout duty, so he
Yep.
winds up having to evade everything that's going on.
Yep.
And that, I mean, it does prove to be a very scary situation to play out. I love how they introduced the Salem 7, too.
I did, too.
Yeah, I thought that was cool because I was like, whoa, how are they setting this
They
up?
they could have all just shown up at once, but they decided to do it a little bit slow.
Yeah, they did it slow, so we do see after the song that gets chanted, and already the show already has another song that's taken off too.
Yep.
So you'll be hearing that a lot over social media
Oh,
over
yeah.
the next couple weeks. They wind up unlocking the door so they can start on the road to the Witch's Road.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking on iTunes right now. The episode has been out for a week, and the Ballad of the Witch's Road, that song, is still number 1 on the soundtrack charts on iTunes.
Yeah.
And like I said last week, the charts on iTunes for the soundtrack songs typically don't move all that much.
No.
It's usually the same songs. Star is Born with Lady Gaga, a couple of those songs. Ghostbusters is up there, but yeah, 1,000 Years from the whatever Twilight movie it was. Like, it's usually the same handful of songs in the top 5, top 10. If something else to move in there, it's got to be a damn good song.
Well, but there's one testament to the show, and it's something that Catherine Hahn does very well. Is, I mean, they play into the musical aspect of things.
yeah.
I mean, we saw this with the whole Agatha All Along song,
True.
way back when. So it makes sense.
True.
And this is something that it breaks up the dark overtones of this show because there's a lot of dark things lurking around this show.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of break it up in this manner, and I think they do a phenomenal job about it because it was a little entertaining piece that was happening. Meanwhile, the chaos is ensuing with the Salem 7 pulling up. So with the dramatic escape, and even Agatha is sitting there kind of second-guessing everything going on as they're about ready to start the road. It leaves the viewers at home going, okay, we're about ready to take off now, and especially with a lot of ground to cover with more or less 7 episodes.
Yeah.
So
This was the first 2. There's 9 total, so 7 more.
Yeah, and it all winds up around Halloween too. So
The night before, 2 episodes drop in the night before.
yeah, so they're going to definitely have to play around with that. So I think there's a lot of room to grow here.
Yeah.
And we still have a lot of questions involving, but I think they really hit their stride mid-episode 2.
I would agree. Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel there's a lot to go over about the first episode or
No.
even the midway point, except the only thing notable is Teen's interaction with Agatha.
Can't say his name.
Can't say his name, can't talk about his background. It gets muted out for reasons.
Yep.
And where he is ultimately going to be the X factor in this is anybody's guess.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say right now, I think it's Wiccan. I think anybody else is trying to stretch it to anything else.
Wiccan just makes the most sense.
It makes the most sense. I think it's a deep dive. I mean, like I said, I love Tom's theory. I'm not complaining about it. I just think like that's a really big deep dive. I would love to see if it was. But anytime you deal with the Darkhold, the book of magic of the MCU, it's a very tricky situation. That's why I say, like, I wouldn't doubt it's Aubrey Plaza's character if you want to go that route. Blackheart would be a great character to add.
I could see like a not physical, but like a ghostly manifestation of the Darkhold showing up because the Darkhold was Wanda. Wanda was the Darkhold by the end of Multiverse of Madness. As we know from the official Marvel book that came out, I think about a year ago now, Wanda is dead. There ain't no Darth Maul, like she's holding herself together with a hope and a prayer at the bottom of a cliff and gonna somehow Darth Maul returned. She's dead. She's dead. So in theory and by proxy, the Darkhold is dead. So if this Witch's Road is some sort of like ethereal plane in between life and death, I could see, not necessarily as a antagonist or a foe, but just something that you're traveling down the road. Because let's face it, up until this point, Agatha has no idea what the hell went on from the end of WandaVision up to this point. She just knows she doesn't have her powers and she wants them back.
Yeah.
And I can fully anticipate because, well, we've got 7 more episodes. At some point along this road, we will see some sort of ghostly manifestation of the Darkhold, and that's when she starts to get in some of the backstory filled and the gaps filled in her memory, and that's when she can go, holy shit, things went a lot worse than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. I mean,
that or she's going to go, told you so.
Well, I think there's one thing that's going to play out, and I might already be killing the lead here.
Okay.
Or, I'm sorry.
Burying the lead?
Burying the lead, I should say. I fully think that when Teen gets to the end,
okay,
his wish is going to be, I want my mom back.
Oh,
and that's how you bring back Wanda Maximoff to the MCU.
We did speculate, I think last week, that this could be a way for Wanda to come back in, and that's how you do it.
And I fully think that's going to happen.
And they have not put any limitations on what the wish is, or the dark or the deepest desire at the end of this road is. This ain't Dragon Ball Z and the Dragon Balls. There ain't no limitations on this.
No, but I fully think it's going to happen, and it makes a lot of sense.
It could be.
It makes a lot of sense for it to happen because
this could all end up being a double cross.
Well, I think this is ultimately the way to bring Scarlet Witch back to the MCU.
Which, to reiterate, last week Elizabeth Olsen has said she's willing to play the part again.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think, but because you have to think about they're doing all the stuff with Vision.
Yeah,
we are getting a Vision show
eventually,
but I think that's going to play in a factor.
Yeah,
and with everybody coming back in some capacity for the MCU Secret Wars, which is going to be the end-all be-all to the MCU, I think it makes most sense to get Wanda back there.
Yeah.
And especially if they even want to play around with the notion about a connection with Doom. I know I'm super stretching this right now, but that's one way to kind of tip the hand. That you could also have her be the catalyst to, for Doom to rise to power, and then we get Secret Wars and all is right in the world. But there's a lot going on with this. So, Pat, final thoughts on these first two episodes?
First episode was so-so. Second episode was definitely better. And it was better. And I'm glad they did the 2 episodes just because I was kind of questioning it going into it. I'm like, why are you doing that? I realized that's kind of the norm for Disney Plus to do these days is these multiple episode premieres. But I was kind of like, why? We know who the character is. You're not exactly trying to really establish or cement a character status going forward. We know who this is. It's a popular character. But once I saw, I'm like, no, you know what? I'm glad they did do the 2 episodes because it made it a lot more enjoyable.
I agree. I think episode 1, good, not great.
Yeah.
But it was more. I hate saying fan service, but it was.
I didn't come out of it regretting the time I watched it.
Right, same here. But I think they played into the whole thing of the TV show and Agatha, and they, the big swerve by the time they all got said and done. But once we started kicking into gear, I thought the performances from Catherine Hahn, Joe Locke, and Aubrey Plaza really started standing out. And now that we're adding more characters to the Coven and see their journey start, I think now the show is really going to hit some ground and really take some fans on some, really wild places. Yeah. There's a lot of optimism I have for this show now. I just hope they deliver, because I think if they take a step back, and this next episode is, I don't want to say filler, but I'm going to say it. If this is a filler episode, I think it's time to pause.
I don't think it will be.
But I don't think it will be. Like I'm just hoping, because when we had with Moon Knight, and we had even like an episode of She-Hulk too was kind of like a filler one. Yeah, and I think when you're doing a series like this, you really need to tell the tale. You really want to establish something, because this is going to dictate 2 shows, really. This is going to dictate what you're doing with Young Avengers, and this could possibly dictate what you're going to do with Midnight Suns or Ghost Rider,
if they want to go that way.
If they want to go that way, because if the Darkhold is connected to this somehow, that usually draws out the Midnight Suns.
Yeah, they're usually not far behind.
And obviously, with the uncertainty around surrounding Blade, I could see them pivoting towards either Johnny Blaze or Danny Ketch, or even I would love to see Robbie Reyes.
Please, Robbie Reyes.
Yeah, they need to do that. But we'll have to wait to see how it all plays out. But 2 episodes in, a lot to discuss. So that said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about Agatha All Along's debut episodes, Seeketh Thou the Road, and Circle When with Fate, or Unlock Thy Hidden Gate? Let's talk about it, shall we? First, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do not adjust your dial, or your phone, your watch, or whatever the heck you're using to listen to the awesome podcast you're currently listening to. I am the Duke of Nerds, Tyler Mack, and I am here to tell you that being a nerd can be a bit overwhelming, especially after 30. Life moves pretty fast in our nerd culture, and if you don't take the time to notice things, you miss out. That's why I'm here. As your Duke of Nerds, I am charged with educating, enlightening, and entertaining you on all things nerdy. I do it by running the 30 to Nerdy podcast. 30 to Nerdy is a Badcast Company production and currently playing wherever you cast your pod. Follow along each episode using the hashtag 30andNerdyPod. And check out what all is going on at 30andNerdyPodcast.com. Whether it's DC, Marvel, comics, or video games, I have got you covered. So tune in now. Cheers to you, nerds.
The content you are listening to is part of the Nerd Initiative Podcast Network. For more info about the home of pop culture positivity, be sure to check out nerdinitiative.com.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we had another debut.
Yes, we did.
A very highly anticipated show. One that early rumors, I think, were greatly exaggerated.
The reviews were greatly exaggerated. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of going with, because ever since this series was announced, we had been waiting to see the next continuation of the Matt Reeves Batman universe. And we knew that there was multiple spinoffs getting mentioned, and the one that stood out and got the lead role here, so to speak, is one Oswald Cobblepot.
Yep.
A.K.A. the Penguin.
Yup.
So this past week was the debut episode, and they are going to be starting up again on Sundays, 9 p.m. on HBO Max. So make sure to check up. But the first episode is going to be out 10 days for fans to savor and kind of give their thoughts about it, because the Return to Matt Reeves universe had a lot going on, much like the first segment. We're giving our spoiler-free statements. Then it's countdown time, spoiler talk. So, Pad, give me your spoiler-free statement on the Penguin.
I don't know what in God's name some of the reviewers were watching with this show, specifically this first episode, because I did not agree with it or what some of those folks said at all. I know there was one site, I won't name names, that gave it a, I'll say, middle of the road score in terms of what it was, in terms of what it was out of, middle of the road. And I know one of the issues they took with the show is it doesn't stand up to such dramas as The Sopranos and Breaking Bad and The Godfather and Goodfellas, you know. And I'm reading this going, why are you trying to compare this to some of the greatest crime dramas and mob dramas that have ever been done? That's not what this is. It's telling a story set in a universe in between films. It might branch from one film to the next. It might just be something to tide us over until the next movie comes out. Because I did not agree with some of these reviews at all. I thought the episode was incredible. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a smash hit. It left me wanting more, and it left me hating the fact that we now have to wait, basically a week and a half for the next episode. And I get why they did it early. It was a couple days before Batman Day, and they wanted to take advantage of everyone talking about Batman and all the discussion and hype around Batman and everything with that. And we're like, hey, remember the Batman? They got the new show coming. So did not agree with what a lot of the reviewers were saying, because I really wonder if we were watching the same thing. But I loved it.
The thing about this series is anybody that had a preconceived notion about what it was going to be had it shattered. And when there was talk that Colin Farrell was going to be reprising his role as the Penguin, there was some skepticism. Can you recapture the magic? It's a spin-off.
Reeves isn't directing it.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts going on, plus you're dealing with a crime drama. And I think for some viewers, connecting superheroes with a grounded take can be a challenge to do. And in this universe, they wanted to make sure they did this right. And they dived into a lot of the lore of the Penguin and Gotham's criminal underground.
Because the Penguin has been done a few times.
Oh, yeah.
I won't say a ton, not necessarily Joker amounts of done, but he's been done a number of times, and all of them very different.
But currently in the comics, and I think rightfully so, they've not made him a main adversary to the Batman.
Sure.
But they've now made him the king of the Gotham underworld.
Oh, yeah.
They've now elevated his status where, he's not going to be releasing Penguin robots onto the city or doing any of the gadget umbrella stuff. They've really made him a complex character.
I mean, you also look at, because I'm thinking of this comparison because I just watched it the other day, rewatched it the other day, is you look at the way Danny DeVito plays him in Batman Returns and compare that character to the way he's portrayed in, say, Batman the Animated Series. Batman the Animated Series, Penguin is more portrayed as like he's a businessman, but he takes advantage of the situations and dabbles into the crime world and does what he has to.
Yeah. And where they went with this, I thought they nailed the point they
Yeah.
needed to.
Yeah.
Because this was not about the Penguin. It was literally him jumping into the mob war between the Maronis and the Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a masterful job about this.
Yeah.
Sure, some elements were a little extreme, I guess you could say.
Sure.
But that can be said about any show. But for what they wanted to do, and that center the Gotham criminal underworld, the one that way back when was established in the mythos of Batman, and seeing the legacy that's left behind.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they really captured the vibe of the movie that Matt Reeves did.
Agreed.
Inspired by the Batman created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. We want to always remember that.
Yes.
And to really make it a grounded story, it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Colin Farrell's performance was on point.
Yes.
I thought very complex at times. And it almost, there's a comparison to the Bronx Tale I'm going to make.
Okay.
And I really felt that here
Mm-hmm.
to a certain degree. But I thought the supporting cast really stepped up.
Yeah.
I think that I'm very curious to see about Kristen Milante's Sophia Falcone, where we go with her in the comics per se, because I don't necessarily know. I know it's been a while since she's been around, but listen, reasons, Lazarus Pits, we can do some things.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna kind of word it like that because
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued to catch up on her character and where she's at in the DC universe. Hashtag ODPH pod if you know, definitely hit me up and let me know. But in the meantime, though, we got a lot to discuss with this. But this was a smash. This was something worth watching. I'll kind of bury the lead already.
Yeah.
This is going to be must-watch television going off the one episode because there's a lot to sink your teeth into and really enjoy.
Agreed.
So let's get into it, Pad. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Gotham.
Yeah, I thought the episode was incredible. I thought it was fantastic. I like the choice they took with when the episode started, where it took place in the timeline of the Batman universe, because every other instance of Batman we've seen, television show, cartoon, video game, or other movies, you have one story take place and then some amount of time has passed before the next episode or next movie or next game takes place. A couple months, couple years, couple decades, but the thing I've always wondered and the thing I've always been curious about, especially with the movies, if you think back to Batman Begins and what happens at the end of that movie, or even The Dark Knight with all the insanity and craziness and destruction that takes place with that, like, what the hell happens after? What the hell takes place, in the aftermath? Because as we know from real life, when you have something happen, it doesn't just fade to black, roll credits, and move along, and everybody goes about their lives as if nothing happened. Things happen, things develop, things, reveal themselves. And I like that they did this episode where it was 1 week, basically after the end of the Batman movie, where we got to see just the fallout and the chaos and I guess the black hole in the crime world and what the hell is going to happen. It was a great setting. Everyone in this show was a standout performance, especially Colin Farrell. It's been Lord knows how long, a couple of years since he's played the role, but he stepped into it as if he never left it, and I just cannot wait to see how the rest of this goes.
Yeah, I agree too. I think they really hit a lot of key points, especially getting the vibe back from the movies.
Yeah.
And bringing such a grounded take to Gotham and interjecting a lot of characters that if you read a lot of DC, you know the names. I'll admit I completely did not put one and one together about who Sophia Falcone was because she was in the Dark Victory, the sequel to Long Halloween.
Right.
I completely did not put one and one together because
Gotcha.
the performance really kind of blew me away about that. So, but still hit me up on that hashtag and let's talk that comic because there's a lot. Actually, that'll kind of tie into a review later this week. But I thought that we had such a groundbreaking performance jumping in because we jump in after the week after Carmine Falcone is killed off.
Mm-hmm. And the destruction of Gotham City seawall.
Yeah, so it's completely anarchy in Gotham right now.
Yeah.
And the Penguin is being very, very advantageous about making his rise in the criminal ranks. So he is trying to break into the Falcone safe, if you will, inside the office. He's confronted by the new head of the family, Alberto Falcone. And that turns out not to be the best conversation possible, shall we say.
And the other thing, too, with Alberto is it's being discussed on the local news that, like, he's the new head of the Falcone family. And it's basically like the worst kept secret that everyone knows what the Falcone family is into. And that the fact that Alberto is about as sleazy as his dad is.
Oh, completely. Michael Zigan, who played him, was very good in the role because he really kind of plays off the, erratic side of being the head of the family, especially with the demons he's battling.
Yeah.
So as he's up there, there's kind of like the confrontation. Oz is trying to make his way. It's kind of weird that they refer to him as Oz Cobb, for his name on the show. But still, I mean,
I took it as I know people were hung up on that and the name change. I look at it as like, hey, this is a crime family. This is inspired by the mafia. When the mafia want to insult somebody, you don't call them by their full name. You call them by a really negative nickname.
Yeah. So in this situation, it works too because, like I say, I'm just so used to him in the comics. So his year one, so to speak, here in this situation is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So they do have the back and forth, but while Oz is saying how he wants to be part of the new Falcone drug operation, well, Alberto mocks him and just makes fun of him. And completely ignores the fact that he could be valuable to his organization. So Oz does not handle this well.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter what iteration you're reading or watching. He doesn't take insults to himself or his character very well.
Oh, no, absolutely not. So once this happens, Oswald pumps about 7 shots into his chest.
Half of a clip at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of is laughing about it in the same sense of just like, and then it sinks in like, oh God, what did I just do?
How's that saying go? You don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger. You don't tug on Superman's cape. I'm going to add one to that. You don't insult the Penguin.
So as he's trying to get rid of the body, he goes out to his car and there's a group of kids that are trying to steal the rims.
Yeah.
And this is the situation of F around and find out.
Yeah, and boy, that car sticks out like a sore thumb.
Oh, yeah, the plum purple.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one of them.
It's great. I love it, but boy, that sticks out.
It's amazing.
Conspicuous is not it.
I know. I was all in about it. So as he's firing rounds off, he does confront one, Victor Aguilar, who's played by Renzi Feliz. And the young boy is literally sitting there just offering anything not to get killed.
Yep, because he knows, I'm caught, I'm going to be dead.
Yeah, so during this, he's kind of just mesmerized about what the Penguin is doing, and Oz says, well, I might need your help.
Yep.
So he winds up forcing him to be the driver as he throws the body in the trunk. So now he has an accomplice with him. So as he's maneuvering around, he is also trying to dodge the influence of Sophia Falcone, who played by the breakout character of this show thus far, and it's Kristen Milanti. And Milani just absolutely crushed it in the situation because she's almost like erratic to the sense of when she comes and confronts, because we find out that she's just been released from Arkham.
Like that same day.
Yeah. So, and her first question is asking, like, Oz, what do you know about my brother? What's going on? And he's sitting there just trying to lay low, but he has to go answer the Falcones. And this really shows where you see how criminal-minded the Penguin is. Because he's already looted the dead body for jewelry.
Yep.
And he now has the body and is disposing of it. So he now has to kind of think what he has to do.
Well, and he wants to skip town.
He wants to take off, but then he has a heart-to-heart with his mother. So this was another notable scene in this show because as we see him confront his mother, who's played by Deidre O'Connell, and you start seeing how she is influencing him.
Yep.
To say, no, you stand your ground. You are you. They can't make you do anything. You're meant to run this city and really place into it.
You're Oswald Cobblepot. You don't bow to anybody.
Yeah, so it is a very powerful scene.
Yeah.
That you see because his mother is not doing well, but to give that pep talk that he needs, and really she accepts him for who he is. It's a very strong performance that you see from Colin Farrell in this, because he just takes this and runs. You can see that switch flip on him.
Yep.
So, Pat, where does he go after this?
Well, he goes to Blackgate Prison and he visits another certain crime family, sibling, relative, whatever the relation is, and visits Salvatore Maroni.
the rival family's boss, who's behind bars. And he winds up cutting a deal.
Yep.
And it does work out in this favor that Oz is basically saying, well, Alberto's off the board. The drug operation can go back to you. You make money, I make money. It's a big win. And Maroney is definitely hesitant about this. And he's played by the one and only Clancy Brown, too.
Yeah, which is great. And I think he's a little hesitant because, you know the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, usually probably is. This sounds too good to be true.
Yeah. But Oz tips him off with something because he gives him a ring. And it's not just any ring. This is the one that who used to own it?
That would be one Carmine Falcone.
Yes. So when it was taken from him in a sign of disrespect, it's now given back as a form of respect. So it's now saying Oz is now aligning with the Maronis instead of the Falcones. That doesn't sit well with Sophia.
Nope.
Because she winds up capturing him,
Yep.
stripping him naked, and torturing him.
Oh, boy.
In one of the more wild scenes of the show.
Wasn't on my bingo card.
No, definitely wasn't. And shout out to the makeup and prosthetic team.
Yeah.
Because they went all out for
Yeah.
the Penguin au naturel, if you will.
Uh-huh.
So seeing this play out, it works because he's getting tortured, and obviously she knows what's going on. She's very accustomed to it because she is known as a serial killer, known as the Hangman. So, like I say, at least that's how I believe it is known in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And when this goes into place, like she being acquitted, back on here, she's now falling back into those old familiar realms.
Oh, yeah. Old habits.
But the body of her brother winds up driving right through the front lawn.
Of course it does.
Because this winds up getting staged by who, Pat?
Victor!
Yes. So this is where I say the Bronx Tale theme comes into place between Sonny and the young boy who's trying to grow up to be the mobster. You're seeing the power of influence take place. And this is where he's now trying to get on Oz's good side because he has now intentionally caused a mob war.
Uh-huh.
Because it is now completely getting blamed on the Maroney family. And obviously with the ring being on his hand,
Yep.
the Falcones are not going to sit quietly about this. So Oz is freed and winds up working a deal out with Victor, even though Oz has threatened to kill him many times.
Yep.
To tie up a loose end.
Yep.
He winds up having some ice cream and just kind of having a bit of a heart-to-heart with him.
This is like Mike Ehrmantraut in Breaking Bad levels of sophisticated.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Oh, it's completely layered, and it's amazing. Because the conversation is basically like, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to take over the Falcone crime family.
Yep. As one does on a casual Tuesday.
Yeah. To the sounds of Dolly Parton's 9 to 5.
It was a great choice.
Oh, my God. And like I say, that's how the show wraps up.
Yep.
But it was so good, the dramatic performances in this. And like I say, they moved around and you saw just how the Penguin works on such a street level. And it's an easy connect with the audience. Like, that's the beauty of it. So anybody that was worried about, like, oh, we need to have Batman. No, we don't.
No.
This is perfectly fine as is. And see the performances. Like I said, Farrell did an amazing job. Milante was great, too. Feliz did it. Clancy Brown, granted, it's a brief scene, but it hits the marks.
It's powerful.
Everything they did, even with the small setup they did with one Michael Kelly who plays Johnny Vitti, who is the underboss.
Yeah.
Like, they do some very cool things here, and they move a lot of things around. So they're just hitting the ground running. And that's why I say, like, if you're not watching the show, if you're into crime dramas, this is right up your alley. This is not a superhero story. You don't need Batman involved, and yet they're telling a great story, and this is just the start of something big. It will be, I'm not going to say it's going to be like a long Halloween, but you can definitely see there's the influence a little bit about the warring families involved.
Yeah.
So to see this all play out, I think this is nothing but big win. Pat, what's your thoughts? Final.
Episode was incredible. Everything I could have hoped it was, and then some. And it's got me chomping at the bit here to watch episode 2, and it just sucks that I got to wait a couple more days for episode 2. I get it, but I hate that I got to wait.
I hate this is on during the Bills game on Sunday because I'm going to have to hook 2 TVs up, and that's always a pain.
Yeah.
But it's well worth it, though. The show really hit stride and made a very big first impression. I think it was a lot better than Agatha's first impression, to be honest with you. If I have to say who won this weekend. One episode beat two.
Penguin, yeah, easily.
Easily. Colin Farrell's performance just really captivating. A lot of charisma behind it. Melante, like I already alluded to, amazing performance, and even just a small doses made immediate impact. And to see the rest of this very, very talented cast start breaking out and go some places, I'm loving everything about this. I think this is going to be a big win for DC, and especially going into the fall and really leading in the charge for the new era of DC films. There's a lot of pressure on the show to succeed, because if this does, I think we're going to start hearing more spinoffs come from this Gotham universe, and that's nothing but amazing to see.
Yeah.
So that said, hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about The Penguin After Hours, episode 1 of its debut season? Let's talk about it, shall we? First, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do you like comic books?
What about movies and TV shows?
Well, we may be the show for you.
We're Hops Geek News, a weekly podcast that discusses comics, movies, and TV shows while featuring a beer of the week.
Every week we chat about what we messed up on the week before, and then we dive into what we're reading and watching, as well as some news.
We then wrap it up with a geek-themed topic of the week.
You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts by searching Hops Geek News.
Cheers.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we had a trailer get dropped.
Yes, we did.
Finally got some answers, had some more questions get raised, because May 2nd, 2025, we're getting some thunder in the forecast.
Hell yeah, baby.
Thunderbolts, the long-awaited MCU film, is debuting, and this one obviously features a lot of familiar faces. Florence Pugh is reprising her role as Yelena, a.k.a. the new Black Widow. Sebastian Stan is reprising his role as Bucky Barnes. We're seeing, obviously, David Harbour come back as the Red Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I'll give the devil his due. Wyatt Russell is returning as the U.S. agent.
Ken's favorite hero.
Yeah, two of my three least favorite MCU characters are in this film.
Yep.
So I will be a lot
Seething,
but it will be well worth it if they do what I think they're doing, because obviously there is moving parts happening with this, because this is all building towards something. Because remember, the MCU is all connected.
Mm-hmm.
And considering the fallout involving Black Widow, Captain America, and the Avengers, this is going to be a team to keep an eye on, especially with one other character they introduced, and we'll have to discuss that as we get into it. So, Pad, we do it like we always do. Spoiler-free statement time on Thunderbolts trailer.
It was good. It's super excited to see this. Not a whole lot of figure out what's going on with this. Just that, hey, they're together. They're doing missions. But no, I'm interested to see where this goes and kind of where it comes out of, and kind of what happens in between the start and the finish, because a lot of mystery with it.
They definitely are setting this team up to be in the same vein as the Suicide Squad from DC Comics.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever read the Thunderbolts comics, their whole story has gone many, many different directions.
Yeah.
I mean, the Kurt Busiek and Mark Bagley run is one of the best. I will say is the last debut issue that wasn't ruined by the internet, and the reveal that happened at the end of issue 1. But I think with how this story has gone, especially with the different role players in the MCU, Thunderbolts is a very tricky property to work, but they can make this happen, and I think they're doing that here because, especially in the title, and it has an asterisk by it for a reason.
Yeah, it has since at least San Diego Comic-Con.
And they have not gotten rid of it. It's on the promo poster as well. I think that's going to play into where the series is going, and I have a couple ideas where we're going to end up by the time we're all done.
Mm-hmm.
So that said, Pad, let's get into that spoiler talk. We're going to break down the entire trailer, give you our thoughts. So in 3, 2, 1, talk to me.
Trailer was good. I like what I saw. It was cool to see all the characters get together and kind of go on a road trip together, because obviously they're going to get sent on some sort of mission. A lot of mystery, a lot of intrigue, a lot of theories with this one, more so than a normal Marvel trailer, I would say, which is surprising to say. But no, I'm excited to see it.
This trailer set the stage for what I truly think is going to be Dark Avengers.
Probably.
I fully think they're going this route, especially with the addition of a certain character known as Robert Reynolds, who's played by Louis Pullman.
Mm-hmm.
Because how this team is put together by Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Valentina is more or less they're doing covert missions off the grid, and this is playing into the vein of the super secret squads and doing a lot of government work behind the scenes. And especially with the team involved, you see a lot of them have worked for government agencies.
Right. Well, and you think just ever since the end of Avengers Endgame, and everything that's taken place since. Mm-hmm. The Avengers aren't exactly walking through that door to help save the world again.
Right.
At least right now. So obviously things are at kind of a tipping point. Things aren't good. The forces of evil on a little bit of the uprise. So obviously people need some help. And this seems like, as we've seen from the buildup in the various Marvel shows and whatnot, to like, hey, we need some help, but we can't depend on the Avengers. We got to get our own team.
Mm-hmm. So where this trailer kicks off with is we do have a reunion of sorts between Yelena and Red Guardian. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, David Harbour does David Harbour things in this. So,
this is true.
I mean, his comedic timing is amazing. And we do see Yelena show up, who's played by Florence Pugh, at the door. And they're kind of a question about, like, what are they doing with their lives? Are they fulfilled?
Well, Yelena's asking Red Guardian if he is.
Yeah.
Because she's been busy, as we see throughout various parts of this trailer.
Yeah.
Him, he's living in a house someplace, eating food and watching TV and ordering through DoorDash.
Yeah, so they're having very different lives going on, but you can definitely tell by Yelena's voice that there is a void and there's a lot of pain behind it. And obviously due to the events of Black Widow, she's still feeling the effects of that, and she's trying to numb the pain by throwing herself into dangerous missions. Yeah. And we do get to see the little side of what she's been doing.
And I think at the same token, too, she knows she's not happy. And she's known Red Guardian for long enough that she knows he's not happy.
Right.
And if he says he's happy, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. I'm very full, so fulfilled. She knows he's lying through his teeth.
Mm-hmm. All the while, we're getting this narration from Yelena. We do see a shot of Sebastian Stan's character meeting in front of a council of some sort. Mm-hmm. Could be a jury. We don't really know.
Looks like a courtroom.
It looks like a courtroom of some sort. And my guess in this situation is they're dealing with his past. Mm-hmm. And this is something they touched about when they were in Captain America. Yeah. His run about when he was to Cap, he still had a laundry list of past crimes he did under the possession of the Russian government when he was working as the Winter Soldier and doing a lot of wet works for him. Mm-hmm. So we do see that play out, and he's looking very, troubled. Yeah. There is a shot of Wyatt Russell's U.S. agent with a child. Yeah. And I don't exactly know where they're going with that, but it looks like he's been, selling.
He's down and out hard.
Oh yeah, because
he's sitting there watching this kid in the crib and on the floor, and he's reading an article on some news site, and the headline of the article says "Fall of a Hero: The John Walker Story."
Yeah, because obviously the events of Falcon and Winter Soldier have played out. That he was publicly disgraced as U.S. agent, which that's something that happened in the comics. So that's very along the the lines of the same, making the jump from page to screen. Mm-hmm. So we do see then there's another shot of an explosion in a building, and Yelena casually walks in, a great fight sequence in a hallway. So if it's a Marvel show, there's a hallway scene.
Always.
And we do see her break into this building, and this could be anything from
random bunker.
Yeah, we don't really know where that is. Like, it could be the raft in some circumstances. Yeah. It just depends on where they want to go and say that this is. Mm-hmm. And like I say, I don't want to jump to too many conclusions here, other than we do see she's going into what appears to be a bunker of some sort.
It's like some sort of storage room in a bunker. Yeah.
Yeah, we do see it has been abandoned for quite some time. Yeah. She's checking out some paperwork that's happening here. And then she's confronted by a few familiar faces. The U.S. agent is back in costume.
Yep, starts shooting at her.
The true one, too. This is the black costume, the captain suit, if you know your Marvel Comics history. Mm-hmm. So we do see that fight sequence is happening here. We do see the Taskmaster has reemerged.
Bow and arrow
from the Black Widow show or movie, so that's always cool to see. Uh-huh. And then we do see a ghost, from Ant-Man and Wasp. Reappear. So we are seeing a lot of familiar faces as the fight is taking place. Mm-hmm. And
evenly matched, I would say.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these characters are kind of on the same skill set level. Yeah. So it is cool to see them unfold in this manner too. And especially with the familiar faces. I mean, this is something Marvel does. We've already had these established characters. So there is a connection there in that in that manner. Mm-hmm. But then we get introduced to Bob. Lewis Pullman's character, who comes out and is like freaking out, and he's obviously in medical garb of being a patient.
Yep. And then Yelena asks him, "Who sent you?" And he says, "Nobody. Yeah, nobody. Wait, you were all sent?"
Mm-hmm. So as this happens, the bunker doors close, and you hear the narration go, everybody has done bad things. It looks like there's a hit squad that comes in looking for them.
Yep.
It's also showing about how Yelena attacked a laboratory.
Government facility, yeah.
Ghost is doing contract kills,
Yeah.
so we don't know who's been shot. U.S. agent is kind of sitting there going and then the lights go out. There's a countdown going. It looks like
a minute. It looks like there's a bomb of some sort.
Yep. And they do show a shot of Yelena staring, and she goes, "What the hell?" And this is honestly where I think the Sentry kicks in his powers.
Oh, that could
so
be.
I think we're going to see that happen.
Could be.
Then there's a shot of a gala, and this is where we see Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Valentina start working the room. And we do see that Bucky Barnes is there spying. Now, Bucky's demeanor, though, that's the key thing to look at.
Yeah.
His facial expressions, because it's very much like when he was the Winter Soldier.
I'm paused on the trailer here, and I'm on the official Marvel YouTube page, Marvel Entertainment YouTube page, and at 2 minutes and 21 seconds of the trailer, if you want to follow along at home, there's a noticeable display case. There's a lot of display cases in this gala, but there's one in the foreground that's really catching my eye. Is that the bloody scepter Loki used in Avengers 1?
It looks it.
I'm looking at it. Like,
yeah, it is.
It's got the curved, it's got the pointy edge shit. Like, that looks like Loki's freaking scepter.
Yeah, no, it definitely looks like it's remnants from the attack of New York. Because you can even see there's another case down low. Well,
what do you think this is? Season 1 of Daredevil? No, so this is clearly not an above the board gala.
Well, I would say unless.
Oh no, you know what it is? It is because I'm now seeing in the background. There are posters in the background that say Battle of New York.
Oh, you know what it is?
It's a museum piece for the Battle of New York because it's probably going on like the 20-year anniversary or whatever it is at this point.
Exactly right. That's where I think they're going with this. Great catch, though, Pad. Yeah, because as the galley's going down, and like we say, Bucky is there. He's looking
seething.
Yeah, and then we do see some more action shots involving the Thunderbolts at this time. We do see there's a bunch of guards ready to shoot the Sentry and you see the bullets fly off.
Yep.
And then there is some comedic moments. You see Bucky is washing his arm, his cybernetic arm in the dishwasher.
That arm is worth like $12 billion, and he stuck it in a darn dishwasher.
Look, I don't ask questions. I just kind of roll with it. Like, I agree with you.
That thing is made of vibranium. God damn it.
There's so many questions now that I want to ask about that, but I'm just like, I just chalk it up to what, Pad? Reasons.
I would love to see Shuri's reaction to that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't caught more wind on the internet about that. But we do see that Bucky is now involved in saying, what's the plan? So I think at this stage, we do know that there must be something going on with
something happens.
The programming with Bucky, that now he's kind of snapped back to it. We do get fast forward a little bit to an action shot where it looks like that he's attacking the Thunderbolts or this convoy that's going on.
Yeah.
More action shots are going on. We do see the Sentry picks up his S-plate, which, I mean, it is what he has on the costume.
Yep.
It is what it is. And we do see the group shot of the team at this point coming through an elevator to confront Valentina. And now this is the speculation everybody's kind of losing their mind about. Is this Stark Tower?
Yeah, maybe.
Or who is Valentina actually working for? Because there are some characters involved here. So I would say this. I mean, I think as far as the speculation, Valentina's organization is probably doing this. I'm not saying it's not above Hydra.
Could be.
I mean, there is connections there in the past.
Could be.
Could be.
It be Stark Tower? Yeah, sure.
It could be the new S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters.
Could also be the Baxter Building.
Well, I mean, that would be interesting if
early tenant that gets evicted because of some stuff they do is not exactly above board that the owners are happy with.
I mean, quite possibly.
Leading to a vacancy that needs to be filled?
Could be. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. I think it's just, I'm going to say for right now that's S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters.
Okay.
Just for reasons.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. And then there's another comedic shot to end the trailer that they're getting shot at, and the car is not exactly bulletproof. It is bulletproof-ish.
Bulletproof-ish.
Yes. But this is where we see Bucky charging at them and firing a rocket, or the landmine that he did in
Winter Soldier.
Yeah. And then you see the car go flying as it does. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of this that kind of alludes to the fact that Bucky has been reprogrammed, and is now back in his Winter Soldier mentality.
I also love the serious flashbacks that U.S. Agent has, because after the convoy chasing down the Thunderbolts gets destroyed out of the way, Bucky comes riding through the dirt and the smoke cloud, and then you see U.S. Agent looking out the back, and he just goes, "Is that Bucky?" And you know, an entire season's worth of headaches and nervousness and just everything that went on between those two just flashed through his head.
Oh yeah, completely.
He's terrified right now.
It's one of my favorite scenes, I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
But this really gave a lot away. It did not give everything away, though.
No, it was good.
There's still a lot of mystery, especially going on Valentina and what she's doing and the true meaning of the team, which I'm going to say she's trying to make her own public Avengers. I will say Dark Avengers because I think that she is going to fill in the Norman Osborn role.
Probably.
And where this ultimately leads, I don't know. But when there's such a vacancy for heroes at this point, this is now where the Thunderbolts come in. Now, I think they're going to play off a lot of what they did in the original run, per se. And I will say, even if you read that run, I think Bucky fills in the Hawkeye role.
Oh.
I'll leave it there.
Okay.
But I think they did a great job about teasing what they have coming. It's a lot of action. It still has that traditional MCU Disney humor that we're all accustomed to. But I think it nailed the point of it. It definitely has a different vibe to it.
Yeah, and we're still 8 months away from when the movie comes out in May. So it's enough of a teaser to kind of tease us and get us ready for it.
Yeah, especially with Marvel reloading the deck with 4 films, I believe, coming out next year.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so they definitely want to come back with a statement. And Thunderbolts, it could be the next Guardians of the Galaxy. It could be the next Inhumans. I'm leaning more it's going to be Guardians.
We'll talk about opposite ends of the spectrum.
Well, to think about Thunderbolts, especially the pop culture audience, I think they did a great job about loading the deck. I know there was a lot of criticism, and even for me too. Like, there was a lot of very similar characters.
Sure.
But that's why I think they're going to keep this very somewhat street level, except the addition of the Sentry, that throws everything out of the mix because he's basically Marvel's Superman, just a little more complex. Or like I say, I'm not a fan of the character, and I never have been. I do love the Jason Lowe series, though.
All Sentry comics can be sent to.
Oh yeah, no, I trust me. I've had some very interesting conversations with fellow listeners and fans online about the Sentry. It's 2/3 of my Marvel. I hate these characters.
We're missing one, and that's the perfect movie.
I tell you what, if Ben Reilly does show up, I'll have a tirade of epic proportions. It would make perfect sense, though, if he did, though. If they do Dark Avengers and they somehow talk Tom Holland into being Ben Reilly,
that'd be great.
And yeah, you see,
get Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire.
Oh my God, make that
multiverse.
Happen. Oh yeah, no. If they made Andrew Garfield Ben Reilly, that'd be the perfect casting. I would applaud that. I would go see that movie with a smile on my face if they made him of all people. Oh, now you got me thinking. But that's why I say the asterisk is still there, because they're going to make it Dark Avengers, and there was a Venom on that team. So
true.
But I do think, though, we have a lot of secrets still left to be told on this. So I'm super excited about where we're going. And I think that this is going to warrant a lot of attention for the right reasons. So even with the U.S. Agent and Sentry involved, this does look like it's going to be fun, and I am very excited to go see where we're doing here.
Agreed, 100%.
So that being said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. The Thunderbolts asterisk trailer has debuted. What's your thoughts? Let's talk about it, shall we? We're going to get our final break out of the way. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast, or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on the entertainment edition of the ODPH. Pad, what you got?
Got a few things to talk about. The first of which, some of the big announcements that were made yesterday during Sony's State of Play for the PlayStation. One of the big ones is the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima.
Ooh.
One of the best games I've ever played. Not the best, but it's one of the best games I've ever played. One I am happily proud to say I have platinum trophied. A lot of fun. Great game. If you have not played it, seriously, and you have a PlayStation 4 or a PlayStation 5, do yourself a favor and go play that game. You will not regret it. From the fine folks over at Sucker Punch. But yeah, the new game was announced yesterday, and it is called Ghost of Yotei. It's set during 1609 in another part of Japan. Coming out sometime in 2025. Didn't get a firm release date, just a release window, I guess you could say, of next year. And I know some folks are mad that it's not Jin Sakai from the first game returning for the next game. And listen, little bit of a spoiler, but like his story gets wrapped up in the first one. It'd be kind of weird to have him come back for the second one. So I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, I think everybody's just, hold on to nostalgia.
Yeah, could be. Then the one that was heavily rumored for the last couple of weeks, but officially confirmed, is that there is going to be a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster. Not a remake, remaster, coming on October 31st, 2024. And there is a little bit of a blog or post on the PlayStation blog explaining everything going on with this. Basically, it takes advantage of some of the new stuff with the PlayStation 5 console. It's made for the PS5 Pro. It'll still work on your regular PS5 or your PS5 Slim. But if you're going to get one of the PS5 Pros, which, boy, you got a lot of money.
Yeah.
It'll look great on your PS5 Pro. It takes advantage of some of the new controller features with the PS5 that weren't available on the PS4. They redid some of the motion capture. They redid some of the dialogue and some of the options. The renders look better. They updated the textures and some of the layers and stuff ongoing with it. The sound has been upgraded, and just overall, it looks really nice. And considering the first one didn't come out all that long ago, a couple of years, like 5-6 years ago, maybe now. But the other nice thing with this is that if you own the game on this from the PlayStation blog, quote, for existing owners of Horizon Zero Dawn on PS4 and PC and or Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition, so that's for the PS4, PS5, and PC, you can upgrade to the digital version of Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered for $9.99 on both PlayStation 5 console and on PC via Steam or Epic Game Store. This includes fans who added the game to their libraries during PlayStation's Play at Home initiative. So, if you've ever played this game on your PS4, on your PC, on your PS5, if you bought the Complete Edition, you can upgrade to the remastered version for $10.
Okay.
It's a pretty good deal, I would say.
I would say so too.
Yeah. Then you got the release or announcement of another game, kind of a remaster, and that is Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2, coming from the folks over at Asper and Crystal Dynamics. It's got the first two games remastered. They showed off a lot in the trailer. That's about a minute and a half. Some of the differences in the way it's been upgraded from the original. Of course, this is for the 25th anniversary of the Legacy of Kain franchise. It's coming out on December 10th, and pre-orders are up for a bill. And I gotta say, not a huge fan of it. I am familiar with it. I do remember it back in the day. Looks good for all, considering it's a remaster.
Yeah.
And then you had a release trailer for a game on PS5 that, boy, the timing of this is real interesting because it was a launch trailer for Pal World on PS5. Yes, that Pal World with over 25 million players worldwide. The game that's currently in a pending lawsuit with Nintendo and the Pokemon Company. Yeah, that's got that going on in the background, which they filed, quote, an injunction against infringement and compensation for damages on the grounds that Pal World, a game developed and released by the defendant, infringes multiple patent rights. It got released on PS5. So, hey, if you want to check it out, if you've heard about the hype, now's your chance to, because check it out now, because if Nintendo wins their lawsuit, and I've never heard of them losing all that often,
No.
you might not have long to play it.
Yeah.
Other one they announced is the October monthly games for PlayStation Plus, which is, I know PlayStation fans like to shit on the PlayStation Plus games a lot. Hey, listen, I got MLB The Show 24 last month for free, and I'm loving it. But they did announce new games for October, and it's pretty good. The Dead Space remake for PS5, which I've heard is phenomenal. You've got the Doki Doki Literature Club, which not my cup of tea, but hey, some folks are out there might want to play it. Also, WWE 2K24.
Let's go.
Oh, baby. I knew if I waited long enough, I might get it. Then a little bit more gaming news that was announced today that I think everyone kind of figured. But that is Ubisoft has delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows by 3 months. It was supposed to come out in November of 2024. It's now launching on Valentine's Day 2025. Ubisoft did say in a statement, quote, it needs time to polish and refine the experience, pushing further some of our key features, close quote. And then also Ubisoft did confirm that the game will release on Steam day one, unlike the PC version of the previous release, Star Wars Outlaws. The pre-orders are going to be refunded, and Ubisoft is going away from the season pass model, thank God, with all future pre-orders guaranteed the first expansion for free. So this kind of doesn't surprise anybody because the Tokyo Game Show is coming up, and Ubisoft was supposed to have a presentation during this because Assassin's Creed Shadows is the game a lot of fans have wanted for a long time, and that is a game in the Assassin's Creed franchise set during Japan in some form or another. You know, feudal Japan, pick your time period in Japan. People wanted to be an assassin in Japan. They're finally doing it. So it made all that much more sense. Like, hey, Tokyo Game Show, Tokyo's in Japan. Let's show off the game in Japan. And then they pulled out at I don't want to say the 11th hour, but it was the 10th hour, very late in the game. And they announced, hey, sorry, we're not going to be there. And at first everyone's like, oh, you know what? They're probably going to announce something on the Sony State of Play. Well, Sony State of Play came and went, and they didn't announce anything for Assassin's Creed. And at that point, I think everyone figured, yeah, they're probably going to delay it. Which, hey, given the way some of their games have released in recent history, Assassin's Creed Unity being the one that comes to mind most, because, hey, it's that game's 10th anniversary this year, definitely released a polished one and not a hot piece of garbage that doesn't work. The no face bug from Assassin's Creed Unity. Hi, I'm looking at you. Then we got to talk a little bit of Netflix because it was Geeked Week for the folks over at Netflix last week. We released a couple of new trailers, a little bit of a teaser trailer for Avatar Last Airbender Season 2. That's in production now. Super excited for that. But we did get another trailer for the upcoming Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft show, which is coming out very soon, October 10th. And I got to admit, I'm excited to see this, especially in the trailer where they showed off her patented dual pistols.
Yes.
Oh, my God. I got real excited for them. Dual pistols. Then one that, gotta admit, did not know was coming, caught me out of left field, but I went, you know what? Castlevania worked. So this might work just as much, and that is a Devil May Cry anime.
This look really dope.
Yeah, it did. Coming April 2025. And the description on the YouTube video on Netflix reads, from Capcom, led by Adi Shankar, and animated by Studio Mir, comes Devil May Cry, a Netflix animated series based on the hit video game franchise, premiering April 2025. So not a whole lot to go on based off the trailer, but Dante's there. Do you need to know anymore?
No, look good though.
No, you didn't. And then the one that's been rumored for eons, movie form, television form, streaming show form, but hey, we're finally hitting fucking something, and that is Splinter Cell Death Watch. And this one is, of course, based off the Tom Clancy video game series of the same name. It's coming from the folks Ubisoft Film and Television. It's coming soon. No release date, but we do know who is voicing the title character of one Sam Fisher. Liev Schreiber.
Let's go.
Oh my God. This
very cool casting.
If you've never played a Splinter Cell video game, revolutionized the whole stealth genre, much in the same way Metal Gear Solid did back in the day. Where I remember going to Toys R Us when the first game came out for, I want to say it was the original Xbox, and trying it at the store on the demo and thinking all I got to do is sneak around this. Not realizing there was the little icon on the heads-up display for the brightness of the light, and realizing I needed to pay attention where the character was in proportion to the lamps, so that, hey, as is the case in real life, if you're standing underneath a lamp or a overhead light of some sort, a lot easier to see you than if you're in the dark. Really revolutionary game, really great series of games, but a lot of good stuff coming down the road.
Yeah, I was going to say they had a lot of announcements there. I know some TV stuff is going to get alluded to as well. So, I mean, Netflix is back in full swing here.
Absolutely.
So before we get into that, I do have one bit of movie news going on, and this is a casting that we've been hearing a lot of rumors about.
A lot of names.
Finally got confirmation. It has been reported on Variety and The Hollywood Reporter that Kyle Chandler from Friday Night Lights fame is now going to be the next Hal Jordan in the new Lantern show getting worked on by HBO. So, reading an article directly from Variety, Kyle Chandler's negotiations for a lead role in Green Lantern series Lanterns on HBO. Chandler would reportedly be playing Hal Jordan, who should he join the series. This would follow Jordan and Jon Stewart, two members of the Green Lantern Corps. Nobody's been attached to play Stewart as of yet. But I know it was rumored Josh Brolin was in talks, and I guess he is passed on the role.
Yeah,
so
listen, it makes sense.
I think Chandler would be a great Hal Jordan, because I know that
he's been in a lot of good stuff, too.
He's fantastic.
Argo, Manchester by the Sea, Super 8.
Yeah, I was hoping it's Chris Pine, but I understand.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about this casting. I think it's going to be great, so I'm all about that.
Yeah.
And then last but certainly not least, I mean, it's comic book day at your favorite comic shops. So, Pat, what you picking up this week?
A couple of things from the fine folks over at, one thing from the fine folks over at DC, and that is Action Comics issue number 1069. God, that's crazy.
It's wild.
But it's written by the wonderful Gail Simone. And this one reads, quote, "The challenge continues as Superman finds himself an unwilling gladiator in a war of 1,000 worlds. Either he completes the challenges or we lose the cities of Paris, Chicago, and Candor." We're not talking Candor, New York. Join us on a wild tale of adventure and intergalactic war. Plus, is there a way for Lois and Clark to keep working together without compromising their values and their relationship?
This run has been great. I know it's a little breakaway from what's going on with Absolute Power.
Right.
And it's a cool throwback. In the backup story, too, I think Roel and Cian Tormey have absolutely been crushing it, too. It's
Right.
an interesting look at Lois and Clark. I like it.
Yeah. Then from the fine folks over at Marvel, you've got Phoenix issue number 3 from Stephanie Phillips. You might have heard of her. This one, the cover is absolutely nuts because it's got the Phoenix there in all its glory, going up against the Black Order. And then it says, "What is the sinister scheme of the Black Order?" But the description of this reads, quote, "Death from above and below? Saving a planet full of kidnapping victims who've disappeared from the gaudy whirlwind of Game World seems like just another day in space for Jean Grey. Though she did get the tip-off from her less than forthright father-in-law, legendary pirate, Corsair of the Starjammers crew. And the kidnappers are none other than the children of Thanos themselves, the dread Black Order. And yet, somehow, it's all about to get a whole lot worse. I mean, listen, you're taking oil, you're taking water, you're mixing them together, and you're throwing in a little bit of fire. What the hell could go wrong?
Stephanie Phillips is writing it. You just go pick it up.
This is true.
That's all you need to know. But, I mean, the series has been great, like, for the X line, and today is a big day for the X-Men line, too. There's about 4 books that are out.
Yeah.
I mean, they're back in full swing, and everything's really running on all cylinders. But the Phoenix story, I think, has been really, really excellent.
Yeah. Then you've also got the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 58 from Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. The cover's absolutely incredible.
The cover's dope.
But hey, it's John Romita Jr. Can't
Yeah.
go wrong. The description of this one is real short. The most visceral issue in Amazing Spider-Man history begins here.
I'm just going to say this. Our esteemed boss at Nerd Initiative, shout out to Michael Rothman, not only did a written review, he did a video review for this. Like, that's how much it was an impact. So just putting that out there.
Then you got the 2 issues I reviewed for Nerd Initiative this week that you should absolutely check out. The first of which is Star Wars Ahsoka issue number 3 from Rodney Barnes. And you've got Steve Cummings as the artist. Phil Noto's on the cover. Phil Noto's awesome on cover work, I gotta say. But this one reads, "Time to fly. Hera tangles with New Republic politics while Ahsoka and Sabine Wren voyage to a distant planet." So, like I've said before, if you have seen the Star Wars Ahsoka show, this is an adaptation of that show into comic form. It is a wonderful adaptation because I have not seen the show since the episode airs. That's not through any dislike or any hatred towards the show. I'm a busy dude. I got a full life. I got a marriage I'm preparing for. So I have not gotten around to rewatching the show. I'll do it eventually, but I haven't gotten around to it lately. Reading this issue, it's bringing it all back. It's refreshing my memory. It's like I'm watching it for the first time again, and it's an absolutely phenomenal adaptation. The artwork's great because I find a lot of times when you're adapting something from live action onto comic, it doesn't always work. The team and crew behind this entire comic do a phenomenal work of adapting real life human beings onto a page, which, like I said, you might think is real easy because, hey, you're just drawing people and you're using reference points. Okay, yeah, that's true. But it, like I said, doesn't always work. This one, it does work. And if you have not seen the show for whatever reason and you don't have Disney Plus, this is a great way to experience the show.
No, absolutely. And Rodney Barnes always has a great voice for Star Wars, too. Like,
absolutely.
he's one of the best writers that does it.
Then you've got Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 9 from Jonathan Hickman. This one reads, quote, "The Sinister Six make their first strike, but who are the Sinister Six? The first members throw down with Spider-Man and Green Goblin in this action-packed issue. Plus, with Tony Stark's return, Peter must also explore the limitations of his new suit." There's a moment in this that doesn't exactly powder keg everything in the explosion, but given a couple of the characters' histories across the various iterations and the various story and the various mediums, you know how things go between these two. And there's a moment in here that I think it's not like the moment where they split and the moment where things kind of go off the rails, but it's the starting of the powder keg. We'll see what happens, but Hickman could do a left turn and kind of do a different story than what we've seen in the past. But historically, when we look at these two characters, you kind of have a feeling you know how this is going to go, and I think this might be the start of it.
You got to trust Hickman.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, he does long laid out plans.
This is true.
So this is not going to be an overnight thing.
There's also a moment, speaking of long laid plans, there's a moment in this issue which like is cool to see because it's another iteration of something you know from Spider-Man fame. And it kind of comes and goes. And you're like, well, wait, why did they do this if they're not going to like use this? And then you're like, wait a minute, it's Hickman. It's probably going to come in down the road.
Yeah, easily. So for my picks this week, I mean, Pat had a bunch of them that I had lined up, and that just goes to show great minds think alike, great books this week.
Yes.
From DC Comics, though, Absolute Power Origins #3, it wraps up the origin story of Amanda Waller, and especially going into next week's Absolute Power #4. Like, this has been a really cool insight about what makes her tick and just how she goes about, you know, the rise in the ranks of where she's, you know, come from to especially a confrontation with one certain Cape Crusader in this one. So definitely a very cool series. Speaking of cool series, one of the best ones from Image Comics, bar none. One of the best comics, period. Black Cloak #8, Kelly Thompson, Meredith McLaren absolutely crushed this. The Return of Kyros is not missed in any which way, shape, and or form. From DC Comics, though, I didn't forget about this, but this is on my list, but I forgot to lead off with this because this is one that, when it was announced, I was like, what? And then especially tying into the Penguin, we're returning to the trilogy from Jeff Loeb and the late Tim Sale, Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween. So this is a continuation of their story that spiraled out of the original Long Halloween. This is a very, very cool story. Eduardo Rizzo is taking up the art reins for this issue. They're going to have a rotating cast of artists for this. And this is, if you love The Long Halloween, it takes you right back there. I love the Tim Sale cover they had for this too. Like I say, it's just, this is one that, I mean, if you're a longtime fan, and I mean, I remember picking up that issue, this series issue by issue. It absolutely mesmerized me, and this one definitely brought me back. And like I say, I'm very excited to see where Loeb is going with this story. And like I say, paying a great honor to the late Tim Sale with this as well. Let's see, next up on my list, from our good friends over at Massive Publishing and the Master Republic team, Luchaverse Catalyst #3, starring a friend of the show.
Yeah.
The one only Conan is now entered the realm. Plus, they have a great backup story, Interludium, which ties everything together that they've been doing and building towards the Luchaverse. So let's say there's a lot of really fast-moving stuff happening here, but they're only getting started with what they're doing over there. So definitely shout out to her, Kevin and Diego and everybody over there at Masked Republic Comics, and of course our friends over at Massive Publishing as well. Next up for me, listen, we're talking about comics' most exciting universe. We got to be talking a Massiverse, and we're talking Rogue Sun. So the murder has taken place in the spiritual, or the supernatural realm, and it's up to one Dylan Siegel to kind of start digging in and find out what happened. This is a great story. I mean, the Rogue Sun doesn't miss, and they're not afraid to throw curveballs at you. So that's one thing I really love about this. Heading over to Marvel, Uncanny X-Men #3, Gail Simone, David Marquez. Enough said. Listen, I love the take that they're doing. Rogue is like, now I even said in the title I did for the review for Nerd Initiative, from a pupil to the professor. She is now running this team and now has to deal with young recruits with a very mysterious background to them. I love the setup here, and if you want to talk about wild fight sequences, the final act with Wolverine, that's all I'm going to let you leave off with. And then last but not least, from our good friends over at Marvel 2, Werewolf by Night #2, Jason Lowe and Sergio De Oliva. This is under the Red Band banner for a reason. It is violent, it is bloody, it is wild, it is insane. We talk about the Darkhold you featured in Agatha All Along.
Yep.
Well, the Red Hood has something to say about this along with Death Watch. So this one goes a lot of places and has a guest star that if you know Jack Russell, it was only a matter of time before that person showed up and comes in a big way. So let's get ready to howl, because this is going to be a very, very cool ride. And for more reviews, over 40 reviews at nerdinitiative.com this week. Absolutely insane. Shout out to the Bullpen, hardest working team in comic reviews, bar none, and nobody does New Comic Book Day like Nerd Initiative. That said, for anything and everything it is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's it for this week. So for the one only Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.